listening to the questionnaire.
Say that again.
You're listening to the questionnaire.
I've just started.
Right here, for your ears, for your eyes.
The questionnaire.
Get your comic on.
Poke it out, poke it out, poke it out, poke it out.
This is that thing I wanted to share with you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's another quest. I am the unknown factor. This is the questionnaire. And, man, I just got a whole crew over here today. It ain't even a pan-com, but it's packed like one, right? But first, for the first time ever over here as a co-host, yeah, none other than the man that drew that, right? The uncouth one, Mike Rooth. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Dude, you're the favorite part. You're my favorite part of my background, just so you know. Well, I can't say that because there's reference here to, and if y'all want to go pay the Patreon and watch, like, I don't know, there's a couple different ones where I say what I'm referencing. I'll tell you all for it later. But there's a specific reference here to something in my life that's repeated over and over again. But that's a reference. It's not actually physically there. The physical there piece is got to be that, Mike. It's just it's just nice. I appreciate it. Yeah, but man, Mike, I feel like this is going to be an interesting one, based on the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, man, it was your very, very first quest, where you and I discussed Auric and the fact that it was created as a convention, just a character for a convention, right? It was the first one.
Yeah, like a mascot. Yep, a mascot for the Northern Ontario Expo at the time. Yeah. Called something else now, but I think called Timmins Con now.
Yep. Timmins Con.
Yeah.
The fact that I remember that one is kind of amazing to me based on how many quests there have been. And that was in season 1 when we were a little raunchy. We're trying to be nicer over here, keeping it PG until, you know, and it's funny that I'm not the one that's slipping up. I think is amusing a couple individuals that are all know the show more than anybody else. They're like, "You're not the one dropping them." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. It's, you know, other, you know, whatever, right?" So let's see. Mike, you know them fairly well, right? I know one. I know two can keep it clean. I'm curious about the other. What do you think, Mike?
How clean do you need to keep it, man?
I mean, I'm trying to keep it PG. You know what I mean? Like during the show.
All right.
That's the goal, right? Because comics are for everyone, man. Therefore, the show should be as well. That was always my opinion, right? But with that in mind, I know two individuals that can keep it clean. I know Andrew Thomas can keep it clean with how he be drawing.
Clean as hell. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I keep it clean.
Or clean as heck. Clean as double hockey stick.
Mike's brutal and will draw with anything, so sometimes it just comes out raw. What are you gonna do? But it's still dope. But we need to. That's another PanCon we need to plan, Mike. But we'll talk about that later. I want to get a couple of. Yeah, that's a different discussion for a different time, right? As far as getting on the tools of the trade and the fact that I've seen you use wrestling figures or figures of. Stupid fun,
Keep myself amused.
Mike. Yeah, right. But that's two people that have worked on Auric, right? And then someone who was just on a quest very, very recently. I'm not gonna get her name wrong this time. It's Shiro Gauthier. Yeah. And I kind of just want to mess his name up intentionally because he says it happens a lot, but I don't see why. Right? I don't see why people mess up Davis Dewsbury. Like, dude, that's really, really simple.
You just messed it up, though, man.
What?
It's Davis.
Davis with an S.
What did I say? I said David, which is terrible because I've been thinking this whole time. I'll get Davis.
It's a recurring joke.
You know what? Honestly, it's. I don't even think it's your fault, man. I think there's some kind of curse, and it started with the CBC radio, and it just spread, and just like we have a comic where there's a curse and it spread, and now like everybody's been infected, and what can you do? What can you do? So just call me Darren. Or
just listen to Derek. He knows what it's all about.
The funny thing, Davis, is In doing some of the music that I've done, there's a guy that owns a bar, and his name was Davis. And the whole time during the pre-show, I'm sitting here thinking, I won't mess his name up. I just got to think, Davis and Davis, and that's good. And I had an association, and that normally works for me. And then really,
No, it's, you know what? Honestly, people have asked me, like, if you had a superpower, what would it be? And I was like, well, I kind of do. It's like I will come into your life, and we'll have an emotional moment, and we'll connect, and you will call me Daryl, and that's cool. That's cool. As long as you say it with a smile on your face, I'm cool with it.
Daryl.
It usually starts with a D.
Amen, Dennis. It's all good.
That's a jump, man. From Davis to Daryl to sometimes I hear stories like these and it makes me not feel so bad about screwing up all the names I have on the show. Yeah. But this is Team Auric, man, and I know like I'm happy to have you as a co-host over here, Mike, for this particular episode because I know I feel will have more insight as than I would. I mean, because you helped initially create this character at a convention. So I'm just curious from everyone's perspective, what has it been like from taking this to just being a character that was just supposed to be, hey, this represents the convention. Then now you're dropping issue 6, you're planning another arc, right? I'm curious how that entire ride has been, and I want even you, Mike, to answer this in all honesty. But let's see. We're gonna go. Oh, I don't know how I'm gonna put this all together in the edit. So yeah, Shiro, you go first. I was gonna give a direction like clockwise and stuff, but then I was like, oh wait, I don't know
You know what? I'm gonna pass that hot potato to Davis. He's the source. Go ahead, Dustin.
I would say that.
Oh man, what's it been like? It's been awesome, man. It's been a real pleasure, and like I every once in a while I get a question like, uh, what's your favorite thing about Auric? And to be honest with you, the most fun that I've had with this is to be able to work with people like the people you're seeing here in this right now. This has been for me the biggest thrill. I I I am a s- I'm a strange cat. I'm a people person that doesn't necessarily like people. I love people, and that's probably why I don't like people because they're so complex and they're hard to hard to deal with sometimes, and they're hard to understand. But working with the people that have been working on this has been an absolute pleasure to me, and it's been a learning experience. It's been a growing experience. Uh, it's it's more than just a book. It's been part of my life, part of growing up, type of thing. So I don't know. That's to me. That's what it's all about.
Andrew.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm gonna echo everything that Dan said, and it's just you honestly really can't ask for a better group of cohorts in this team, because it's not only that we're growing up together, but it also reflects in the work that we do, because you can see that the work is also growing as well. So, and that's always been how it kind of equated my journey. It's kind of it kind of grew synonymously with um, as an artist with Auric. So as you can see, as you pick up each issue, and then it gets better and better and better, which is the curse of any creator. It's the dread of looking back
Oh yeah.
at your previous work, and it's just so much so that I had to redraw the first issue entirely. We did for our issue 0, but yeah, it's getting to not only work with just like the best darn team ever, but like getting to meet so many people that enjoy the same, they share the same passion. You know, that's why. I mean, we get to going to the convention, you know, the convention experience, but like there's so many people there that you learn from, and it's not just the, you know, I guess the team itself, but it's just like all the colleagues that you meet and you get to collaborate with, and you get to, you know, bounce off ideas and you learn from. Like, I can't tell you the amount of things just from Mike alone that I've learned, and I've put it into practice. So it's just like that kind of stuff is just invaluable. Like, there's so many things that you don't take into consideration when you're creating, you know, an indie comic. And, you know, lettering being one of those things, and then just look at, you know, how that affected my life down the road. But like, it's just, you know, that part, and editing and printing, it's just, there's such a deep appreciation for making a comic, and we go from an initial concept to finally having, you know, something tangible in your hand. It's just, oh man, it's so rewarding, you know. So yeah.
And I think it's funny you say how people underestimate lettering in something too. Like, and I think I don't understand why they would. I mean, I can't think of a comic book that wouldn't have suffered without a good letter. I mean, and it's also the fact that the letterer has to know at what point do you need to enunciate what in the script, and how do you need to do it. You know what I mean? Writing the bang pow boom, or I say that because it's the easiest three to say, you know, zap, whatever. I think the people don't realize the importance of that. Also, let me see. I think the dope logo that's right here that Andrew made. I'm assuming on how I'm going to edit this when it's all set together. So it could be anywhere in this vicinity. I'll just be real honest, man. But that's phenomenal. People don't understand the depth you have to go through to be able to take just simple words and make it to where you can relay it in an artistic manner, as opposed to just, you know, read this.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was something that you had said at some point, Andrew, that made a lot of sense with lettering was, if you're doing it right, uh, you hardly even notice it, but if you're
Yeah.
doing it wrong, it sticks out like a sore
Yeah,
thumb.
and that's something that's been echoed, you know, and I just kind of echo that, you know, from many. I've heard that from many people, but like, yeah, that's it. Like, good lettering is invisible, essentially, and it only only really notice it when it's bad. So I mean, which is funny enough, because your eye is fixated on what's in the word balloon and on the lettering, maybe like 85-90% of the time, and when you're reading a comic and you don't notice it, and then your eyes kind of shift from, you know, from the image to the words, and kind of back and forth. So yeah, that's it, because that's gonna, you know, you do it wrong, and it's gonna take the reader completely out of the experience, and it's gonna ruin it for them. And there's nothing worse, you know, especially like, because there have been, you know, many a time where you're just really invested totally in a book, but like, you could have the world's best art, you know, ever done on a comic, but you know, if you're using Comic Sans and clip art word balloons, then it's not gonna cut the mustard. So
You don't think? I think it could if it was written to have that specifically, but that's the only way. You know what I mean? It would have to literally be a comic written. But then it's the fact that you technically plan to letter it that way, and if you write it specifically that way. But yeah, short of actually it truly being plotted to be done like that, it would never work. And I don't know if you were doing it like if you were taking like Mike, if I got you and said, "Hey, this is my plan." Okay, that wouldn't work. Yeah, because that would look terrible with Mike's art or your art, or yeah. So I guess there is that point. I mean, I would expect that more in like some stick figure 3-panel comic.
Oh boy, the dawn of the internet comic. I remember it all.
Wait, what do you mean the dawn of the? Are you saying the dawn of the internet comic was a 3-panel meme ostensibly?
Pretty much. There was some other stuff, but there was a lot of 3-panel.
Well, I always point to Side Night and Happiness as the prime example of that, being super successful in stick figure, comic strip and still going strong. But yeah, I mean, and it's funny, I hear that all the time when people's like, "Oh, I can just draw stick figures," and I'm like, "Yeah," and people have made buttloads of money off of that. So keep it going.
But again, I think that depends. It's what story you're trying to tell. Like, look, if you guys did Auric and stick figures, I don't think it'd work.
Is that a challenge?
He's never seen my storyboards for the scripts.
I demand a stick figure issue.
Oh my god, we're gonna do the Newberry cut when it's just all stick figure issue. That's it. That's gonna go in the 10th anniversary special.
I'm gonna make a fortune selling the original art for this.
Yeah, Dylan is laughing, but that's probably what would happen.
No, yeah, we're laughing now, but that's going to be totally a portion of the 10th anniversary issue. It's just there's going to be a nice,
like the extra
gallery,
DVD, but it's not in the comic.
It's going to be a nice gallery of all of Davis's thumbnails.
Yeah, don't do that to anybody, please. I feel guilty doing it to you guys.
Oh, but I'm the kind of person that enjoys that stuff. I love looking, especially in the back of a graphic novel in the trade. I love looking at the behind the scenes stuff. I really do. That's why I have.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I have the graphic novel, the Court of Owls Unwrapped, and it's just all it is just Greg Capullo's pencils throughout the entire thing. And with letters over top, and it's mesmerizing to look at, just in its raw form, and oh yeah, I dig that stuff all the time.
I love that stuff in the back matter, but I also love that as the creator or as the artist working on it. Like, I'm trying to think. I think Davis has actually sent me some sketches for an idea he had for like a cover or something like that, or like he'll describe the idea and then he'll like, here, I did this terrible drawing of it or whatever. His words, not mine.
That sounds like me.
I always think they're great because when I see them, I know exactly what he wants, even if it's not the most the most fully polished drawing. He's getting an idea across, and even in my own book, Dodge, I've had troublesome panels where I've been like, I don't know how to approach this panel. And Matt's like, well, I saw it like this. And then he'll send me like, literally a stick figure drawing of the layout. And I'll be like, oh, I don't know why that didn't occur to me. But I was coming at it from a whole different, more serious angle. And he just wanted a very simple shot that he was able to describe with stick figures. And all of a sudden the problem was solved. So that stuff's essential, I think, and it also helps create that bond of communication between the writer and the artist, because most writers I work with say, I can't draw with a damn, but I can kind of show you what I want to do. I can kind of visualize it or whatever, and that's just really, really helpful, because sometimes it's the most obvious solutions just are not obvious to the person who's overthinking it.
Oh yeah.
This guy, so.
I'll tell you though, there's nothing more satisfying in the world than giving that garbage piece of art to somebody that can draw, and them looking at it and saying, "Yeah, but what about this?" And then you look at it and you're like, "Shit, yeah, that's it."
That's funny. That is so hilarious because I literally had that moment with Andrew when I was discussing the concept of the new logo, and it was kind of a bad idea. I'm gonna be real honest, looking at it in hindsight, especially comparative to what you guys see that Andrew ended up doing. I'm like, okay, apparently I used the appropriate words though to where and okay, but if you'd have done what I initially said, Andrew, yeah.
But that's the beauty of this. This is what these people do. Like, this is their bread and butter, and to see that magic from in my case, like something so crude and raw, and them to say, okay, yeah, that works, but how about this? And they just, it's like they pull the rabbit out of the hat, and you're like, holy, you know what I mean? Like it's It's awesome. That's one of the thrills of doing this too, is to see these things just take shape, and it's like, wow, man, how do you do that?
And there's definitely like going off what Mike said and then what David said. Has been often than not parts of column A and then parts of column B where Davis's his thumbnails were instrumental into how I blocked out the scene, because just like Mike said, you see the vision and you see where you're going with it, and it really does help a lot just to kind of block it out, especially with the roughs, and then it just kind of played out. But then what David said is just like, then there will be an opportunity where the artist envisions something that could work a little bit better, and then that's the beauty of the collaborative effort, where it's like, well, if we do it this way, and then this could this will happen, or just kind of shift it around, and you're like, actually, and then Davis will be like, yeah, that works, or he'll explain why it has to be a certain way, so it's like, and then you lay out the vision, and then you just kind of you go from there. But yeah, absolutely.
See, yeah, and it makes me curious based on past discussions that we've had as far as how things are handled at certain places and in a number of ways. Like, I'm curious, Davis, when do you write? Are you writing full script?
Wow, that's a tough one to answer. When I'm done, there is a full script, but I am fumbling through with writing down dialogue, writing down point forms of scenes. I look at it. I went to school, and I've got a BA in English. I'm probably one of the worst spellers you'll ever meet that has a BA in English, but I do have the diploma, and I can show it to you on demand. I just have to go to my
Prove
parents'
that I
house.
am educated.
And they spelt my name right on it, but I paid a lot of money for them to spell my name right.
You had to bribe the right people, eh?
But
25 for diploma, 75 to write Davis.
can you believe they wanted me to pay $30 to ship that to me after getting about 40 grand for me to get it? But anyways, yeah. So I look at it. I look at it and try to break it down like as if I was doing an essay. So I'll break things down by scene, and then I'll start writing point form things that I feel need to be in those scenes, the important beats that need to be in those scenes. And then from that point, I might start doing these crude storyboards to kind of so I can. I'm a very visual person, and if I don't have something there to look at, I lose it very quickly. So I don't know if it's like just a learning issue that I have, but I've always been like that. So it just kind of goes from there. Once I have those storyboards and I have paper with rough dialogue, I start dialoguing into the storyboards a little bit. Sometimes it fits in the balloon, sometimes it doesn't, and I take that amalgamation of my notes and my storyboards, and then I start doing full script. But I provide the script and the storyboards to Andrew or to Mike or whoever, or to Sharon, or like Shiro, to like whoever I'm working with, and I just pray that they don't laugh at me when they see the drawings.
I don't know for you, Dominic, but me, I don't laugh at you.
No.
I love when you send me storyboards. You put so much heart in it. See, I can say compliments too.
I appreciate it.
And it makes me wonder across the board how often things like that are done from the writer and given to the artist. I know there's a certain degree of it done. I know within the big two, I'm pretty sure you don't see that at all, at least not anymore from things. I mean, So I mean, how much have you three, from Shiro, Andrew, and Mike, like how much have you ran into that where you get storyboards on a concept like that?
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, to be honest with you. It really doesn't happen that often. kind of left to her own stuff sometimes. I know, like when I was working on Dodge, I had a bunch of like photo reference sent to me for like vehicles and different things I would have to draw or you know, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I've worked with a bunch of different writers, but I could probably only name a few that actually send sketches or those types of visual aids. You know what I mean? Usually they can, you know, describe it pretty well, and they don't really have any expectation of what it's going to be, as long as, you know, the points are all kind of hit on the page. And but you know, I think there's a lot of ways to get lazy too. Like I've seen scripts that, like I've seen the script, the raw script, before I've seen one of the big two artists draw it. And I don't want to name any names, but I was looking at there was an Aftershock book years ago, and I had to do a cover for it, and they sent me, the book wasn't complete, so they sent me the script, and then they sent me pieces of artwork that were attached to it, you know, panel artwork that I was tying to the different descriptions. And the artist just like didn't care. Like he looked at the 15 points of detail that were mentioned in panel 1 and decided to draw 3 of them. Like the basic, you know, location, the basic character, and the one important thing the character does. But like the writer had said, well, you know, on the lawn you see a, you know, a smoldering, you know, can of, you know, 10, you know, big gallon drum that used to have a fire in it, and you see, you know, a broken, you know, toaster that's been thrown out the window, and the broken window, and you see, you know, piles of trash over here, and you see, you know, what looks like, you know, part of a kid's play set that's been stomped on, and the artist just drew a trailer park with like an ugly guy in the doorway and his oxygen machine. That was just 3 little details on a very, very, very well described panel that I would have actually enjoyed drawing all that stuff, because that's what the writer wanted.
Yeah, to
You know what I
set the
mean?
scene.
Like I'm getting paid so little as a comic book artist that the least I can do is try to make the writer's vision come true, and try to get payoff in that regard. You know what I mean? Get
That's
some satisfaction from the creation of it, knowing that I'm satisfying the guy who wrote the story.
yeah, just with the list that you gave, and in comparison to what was done, that's a failed telling of the story on. That's
I mean, the panel still worked. The guy still drew. You still knew where you were in the story. You still got the idea, but the richness of the script was just delicious, and it just seemed like a shame to not enjoy all that. You know?
yeah. That seems very odd to like. Andrew, you ever have somebody give so many pieces of a description and something like that to where you're like, I'm just not including that. It's too much. Because like in all sincerity, I do think there is that balance as well. I think sometimes it's like, hey man, you have to understand, like this is one too many things to include in this shot. You're making that shot overwhelming. You know what I mean? I mean that from a point of sincerity.
Yeah. No. Just before Andrew answers, I was just going to say, like, sometimes it is too much. So you find a middle ground, but I actually don't mind being told everything that they want. Like, if you look at old Alan Moore scripts, like he describes where every cigarette butt is and where it is. He describes where every bottle cap that's been flicked off, where it is. He describes where the rain is hitting and the direction it's coming down. All those things are you know, it might be too much for a guy like, I just let me fucking draw the scene. Like I'm just gonna draw it, I'm gonna draw it. But for me, that's magic to get that kind of information, because I've been an art robot my entire life. I draw other people's ideas. I draw other people's visions. And so I try to get it as close as I can. And sometimes it's ridiculous. And sometimes it's like, how many times do I got to draw this boat? But, you know, sometimes it's also like, you know what? Thanks for telling me, because I would not know how to make this work the way, if you just told me the setting, the characters, and, you know, the whatever. Give me that richness, and I'll do what I can with it. And if I can't do it all, I'll get close enough to it that you won't care. You know, basically.
Andrew?
Sorry.
Yeah, and so in my case, outside of Auric, I don't do a whole lot of sequential art. I would say for most of the time, my work is you know, primarily lettering. Now, I will get notes from the writer or from an artist about a specific lettering note that they would want to see. Case in point, there was an issue of Mosley that I did, and Rob Guillory, the writer, he left a note in the script saying that this particular character is going to fall off or fall down a sewer or kind of like, there's one of the many, tunnel systems, and then there's kind of like a little waterfall or something like that. So this character is going to fall, and what they want is they want to see the character screaming, but all the the A's and all the letters, they want them not only stacked, but they want it to be trailing off, and the size is getting smaller and smaller as it disappears. So it's a specific direction as what they want to see for that, and then and you do and I do your best to to make it happen, to oblige it, but aside from that, I mean we could go into when, for example, we're doing covers, or we're turning in thumbnails or stuff like that, and then you get feedback from the writer or from whomever, and they would want to see more specific things, and then you try to adjust it based on what they say. So you hand in a concept art and say, this is my idea for what you want, and they're like, oh, this is cool, but then here's a list of changes we want to see, and we want things we want to be more dominant or visually represented right on the page there. But yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm curious then to the last artist, Shiro. You ever had situations like that? And there's this part of me that just wants to mention one particular card company. I wonder if it was ever an issue there.
Yeah, I'm still in a good mood, so.
So we won't bring that up
And that's
then. Okay.
part of it,
Okay.
because it was literally like, you're allowed to draw these characters and not these characters. So I drew these characters and I sent them in, and then they destroyed half of it because it was not up to quality. You had me draw on a dry erase surface. And I'll leave it at that while I'm still in a good mood.
Right.
Also
I
had
just
some
didn't know.
that literally made me erase something like 1 pixel here, 1 pixel there, 1 pixel here, 1 pixel there. And yeah, I'll leave that as big as possible too. But my decent writers, like Drustin, I have no problem with them, even when like they want changes. Usually they're pretty nice. They're pretty, like, how can I put it in actual words, English
They're
words?
scared of you.
Okay, as an example, let's pick someone who's actually normal. Andrew, when you asked me for change in my coloring.
Normal subjective here, but okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's I guess going back just to the collaborative effort. But yeah, when Shiro sends over a page that's colored, and I'll offer some notes as to some tweaks and things that I think could help enhance the page a bit better. Yeah, but I don't think it's too bad, not too crazy. I hope.
No, you're perfectly normal, and that's the thing. Like, you will critique my colors, which is normal because I tend to get them like too bright for what Auric is. It's my fault. I love neon colors. I love bright colors. But it is true that I need to tone them down for the book, and I am perfectly okay with that. We're on a schedule. We're on a deadline. No time for feelings. Same goes for my writer, Gabe. He used to send me storyboards. He doesn't do that anymore. He trusts me for that. But if he wants changes on my sketches or pencils, I will do it. Like I said, we're on a schedule.
I'm going to be completely honest with you, and I've read a couple of interviews about the collaborative process between writers and artists, and a few scary ones too, where the process that I use was used as an example, and the artist was like, totally offended and insulted, and I get it. I get it. Like I totally get that, how that could happen. So I like when I do what I do, I first have the conversation with the artist saying, listen, I completely understand that actually, I think it's on every one of my scripts too, Andrew, at the beginning, saying you're the artist, you're the visual, you're the visual mastermind here. So anything that I write or provide with one of these things, if it's not right, just let me know. Like, let's make this work.
Yeah, you would actually include that as a disclaimer,
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
beginning of every script. I
And the
remember that.
last thing I
Yeah.
want to do is insult anybody. But basically, my style has come out from just ignorance, right? Like this is how I started. This is all I know, and I got to get a little glimpse of how like the old school guys do it. 2 years ago, we put out Auric, A God in Plastic, which was written by Mark Shaneblum and drawn by Dan Day. And I actually got to see Mark's script. I've actually got a copy of Mark's script and what he provided to Dan. And like, it blows my mind what there's so much, but there's so little. It's so condensed of what Mark's vision is that he gives to Dan. And he knows that Dan can take that and just run with it. And Dan did. Like, he took it, and it's like, where does he know where to start this page and to stop this one? And I'm going over it, and it blows my mind.
It's something
It blows my mind. But it's a different way of doing things. I think it may be not as common anymore, but like it's incredible. It's amazing.
It's funny that you say it's not as common anymore, because I know for a fact from recently having Fabian on, that's something that he kind of adamantly complained about, I'll say, with Marvel. Like it was it was a pretty open complaint about the
It
situation
wasn't
that
enough,
he had
or
well, no, that he had to write full script, that he couldn't write uh
oh,
what's referred to as just give an outline. Like, it was he was he didn't he was like, fine, I'll do it. And that's pretty much why it happened. Yeah. But he did not, he wasn't about that life.
it's eye opening to me. It's I think it's so cool to see that there's so many different ways of doing things, and everybody's got a different way of what they want, what they accept, and what they can run with and what they can't run with and stuff like that. And it's that to me was one of the pleasures of having, playing the little part that I played in having that book made, was getting to see those two guys with these decades of experience to just take that ball and they play like a completely different game with it. You know what I mean? It's pretty freaking cool.
It is. It's a cool thing to see, for sure.
You were used to basketball. They're like, hey, let me show you soccer. Why are you kicking that thing?
It's pretty much what it is. It's crazy.
I think that's phenomenal, though, to see that all the different ways that our comics are made. And I think that's something that most people don't really comprehend when they think about comics. Not only the aspect of, most people only think of the artist and the writer, and they don't think beyond that. They don't think of the letter, of the colorist, of even the editor. Like, there are so many people that aren't thought of within comic books. You know what I mean? And then I don't think that they think of the fact that the process of making a comic book can be about 1,000 different processes, maybe more. I don't know. I just said 1,000 because it was a nice round number, and it just seemed to work.
Now, sometimes it feels like 1,000 processes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there's been a larger discussion happening, I think, in comics about how letterers and colorists don't get the credit that they deserve. And that's always been the case, in my opinion. And it really bothers me because most of the time I just got hired to make art. And I spent years doing books for Rubicon Publishing and Scholastic Books, and they would literally give me a PDF that had the panels all laid out, and there'd be nothing on them except a little description of what was going to go in each box. It was no thinking involved. It was a lot of referencing. It was a lot of having to do research, but I was told exactly what to put where, and there was no creative process in that. And then fast forward to working with, guys like Davis, or, I've worked with Connor McCreary, I've worked with, Matt Nixon and a few other people on scripts, and everyone's got a different approach, when it comes to the actually assembling of a comic book, when you're not only just the artist now, you're now a partner in the project, and now you have a team, and the team is all waiting for your drawings to come in on time so that they can get that stuff done. And then you see what they do with your drawings when they letter it and when they color it, and you're just so like shocked and amazed, because now it's a whole thing. I mean, it's been a whole thing in my head while I've been drawing it, because the way Matt would send me a script was Matt writes a script with, he'll be like, okay, page 2 has 5 panels. It's got, a big panel across the top and then 2 little panels and then this, and and he'll do that part first, and then he will address the action in that page, but he's addressing me. And he's saying, let's have fun with this one, Mike. He's like, okay, they're drinking teacups, right? But the teacups look like birds, man. Do you get it? They look like birds. And I'm like, I get it. And he's talking to me. So I'm putting that energy into the artwork, and then we pass it off to someone else who colors it. And I haven't given any instructions. I've just done the drawing and hope that they're gonna just, these are the kind of, this is the kind of setting. And then I see the colors come back, and I'm like, man, wow, I would not have done that, but holy, does that ever work so well? And then it goes to the letterer. And then, we got Matt Krotzer doing the letters on Dodge, and he's a genius, and he just comes back with these, what looks like things that I always took for granted until I had to make a comic. And then I was like, this guy is essential to this team. If anyone else lettered this book, I think it would really be felt by people who've been reading the book up till now. Even though my art has changed from issue 1 to issue 4 drastically in some cases, the lettering has been consistent. And when you're reading a comic book, you don't want to have to stop and think about the lettering. It's like Andrew said, if you're doing it right, no one will think you've done anything at all. It looks like nothing's been done at all, because you just accept it. You're just reading that information, you're getting that information, and that's a beautiful thing when you see that come together. So I really do try to push for the colorists and the writers to get, or the colorists and the letterers to get more credit. Writers get enough credit. No.
Well,
but colorists and letterers, man, honestly, like I've been partnering with Danny Harrell doing a lot of covers and stuff like that lately. And, Danny has started from scratch, knowing nothing about, coloring comic books, but just had a passion for it. And I've watched him for the last couple of years. I've been giving him tips and helping him out and watching him get better and better and better. And now I just hand him the piece and be like, do your thing, because you know what you're doing. And I don't have, and I make sure, even though a lot of people are like, I want a Mike Rooth variant or whatever, I want to get a Mike Rooth exclusive for my comic book. If Danny colored my piece, then I want Danny's name on the cover too. That's fundamental to me. That's fundamental to me. And it's like, oh, most people don't do, they don't do credits for the colorist on the cover. I'm like, well, that changes today, because I'm handing in this artwork, and you can either put his name on it or we can do something else. And that's it. And, and I try to make it, I try to be a stone wall about that, because for too long, colorists just aren't getting the recognition they deserve. And sometimes I'll see big name artists, and I don't want to name any, but I'll see them post beautiful pieces, Marvel covers, DC covers, all the time. And I'll say, who colored it? Because your work is awesome, and no one's taken that away. But who colored it? Because this thing is alive, because someone colored it.
And I think it's funny what you said, Andrew, and you commented on a minute ago, Mike, as far as lettering. If you're doing it, essentially, the better you're doing it, the less that it is noted. I think to a degree, the same thing can be said about coloring, as far as like the better it is, I mean, you're noticing the vibrance of the color, that's for sure. But it's only adding, so it's not something you're making a cognitive thought about. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, that's awesome. Like, and your brain thinks through that. Your brain, I don't think, would normally react and go, who colored that? Unless you're very much a comics and understand how everything's layered. But I just don't think I don't think you're ever gonna have a situation where you're gonna walk up to someone in the street and go, look at this picture. And if they think it's awesome, they might ask who drew it. They're never gonna ask who colored that thing. You know what I mean? Like it's just not gonna happen. No one's ever gonna ask, "Oh, who put those letters on there like that?" Like it's not gonna be an occurrence. And I think it is sad with the industry, man. People just that it gapes to them, and I don't. I mean, I guess it did me even for a long time because it did, man. I was reading the stories and enjoying them. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of the depth of that. People just people just don't get, man. And I wish they would. I don't know how to make that possible. And now I'm just bloody well rambling, But let's just go to the fact that maybe if minimum wage was just livable everywhere, comic sales would go up for sure.
But to go back to what Mike was saying, especially about having colorists and having more recognition. It's funny that I know an artist down, I forget where she lives, but she lives down in the U.S. and she got the chance to do a cover, or she colored a cover for one of Kevin Smith's books, and we were talking about. We were just kind of just chatting and she was talking to me about wanting to kind of continue pursuing and wanting to kind of get out there and do a convention, whatever, and doesn't know how to go about asking the right people, and which led to her saying, well, I feel so guilty about telling them that I colored this book. I'm like, what are you talking about? Why? Like, it's your name and the artist's name on this book. Like, you guys collaborated together. It's like, yeah, but I feel so guilty because I feel like I'm taking credit or the spotlight away from him. And I'm like, that's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, like, you guys worked together, and your name is on a book that was written by Kevin Smith, and so now you need to wear that badge proudly, and you need to go if you want to start going to conventions or tell people what you did. If you want you tell people about the work you've done. Don't leave that out. Mm-hmm. That's a huge accomplishment, and and I would go back and kind of give my side of the experience about similar ideas where it's like, well, I feel reluctant to tell people about what I did. It's like, oh, I did letters for this book and so, and I've had people say right to my face, it's like, yeah, so what? And so it's like, no, you got to wear that badge proudly, because comics is not just is just a writing and art process. There's more to it. It's kind of like a ball pen. The writer passes it to the artist passes it down to the hall to the the inker, the inker colorist, and so on and so forth.
Well, just to cut to something that you, I think, are kind of not bringing up at this moment, Andrew, and that being the volume 2 of Quick Stops, that I can only imagine when you received that whole script from reading the book.
Oh yeah, that's getting to read that book, that story ahead of time. That threw me for a loop.
To expand on the credit thing with colorists, I would go as far as saying that flatters don't get the respect they deserve either, because coloring is hard, but the hard part of it is flatting. Well, for me it is, because that's the agonizing time suck that is the worst part about coloring for me. If you can get a good flatter who's just doing the solid flat colors that you can then build your colors on top of and do all your rendering on. Like, I first started bringing Danny on to color my stuff as a flatter because he's very, very clean, very, very fast. So it might take me, if I have a very complex wraparound cover, it might take me 2 days just to flat that thing before I have to go, because I'm doing it old school with a Wacom tablet, and I'm looking at the screen, but I'm drawing down here. I'm not doing it on a screen like on Procreate or something like that. So that stuff takes me forever to do. Now I'm in control of it, and I like the final result because it's done my way. But when Danny started flatting stuff for me, he was just shaving days off of my time on projects, which meant that I was able to draw more stuff. And, I thought I want to get him on there. And I remember fighting with a couple of retailers who were like, yeah, but he only did the flats for you. And I'm like, yeah. And he saved 2 days of my time. And he did it for free. Like, he did it because he wanted to just be a part of this thing. He's not even going to take credit. He's not going to get his name in the book. But he flatted that thing for me. And I think we should make a mention of that. Well, we can't do that. Okay, well, you're the boss. You're the guy with the money. But I'm just saying, in a fair and just world, everyone who puts a hand on that comic book in some way should have their name in that book.
That's just really odd. It's not like it's costing them any money, I would think, to add one more or two more lines. I mean, like,
It's just, I don't know what the hesitation is, but I mean, there's a lot of colorists out there going, shut up, Mike, stop talking about this. You know what I mean? Because colorists have to fight for whatever little bit of credit they can get because they're not given the respect. But they might be hiring someone, I don't know, in South America or someone overseas who's doing the flats for $8 a page and making their job really, really easy. You know what I mean? And that's something that I think a lot of people don't talk about either. And I think it's worth talking about.
wait, now what exactly do you mean as far as the fact that they're just not represented, or the fact of how much of that work is taken to an international place?
I think it's all in the culture, right? I think what Mike's saying is that more people in Mike's position should be making that uncomfortable conversation with the people that are putting the books together, saying, "Hey, listen, you know what? Like, this person put the work in. Maybe they should be given a little bit of credit, even if it's a small line. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's,
I mean, the value that I put on good flatting work, like, honestly, it saved deadlines for me. Sometimes I'll hear about a job, someone will be like, hey, you want to do a cover for this book? And I'm like, yeah, sure. When's it due? Tomorrow? Oh, come on, man. Well, I can give you till Friday. Okay, well, if I get it drawn today and I can get it to my flatter tonight, I can deliver it tomorrow, but I got to get it to my flatter tonight. And that flatter is the hero of this story. That's what's up.
That's the other thing I don't think people understand about the comic book market is the deadlines and how lethal they can be to the mental health of those that have to endure them, what I'll say. Because I think that's probably the most important. Not to say that everyone doesn't have deadlines in that regard, in just life in general and things, but I think it's something that within comic books, people don't think about how stressful it is to, make sure that book gets to where it's supposed to be. You better either have that story written, have that page drawn, have it, have that color done, have that, like, every aspect. And the fact that for a comic to come out, you have to make sure it's done in that order. And the fact that every person needs a piece of time. It's not like you can draw and color it at the same time. And if you can, what's going on here? That's what I'd really like to know. Like, you're drawing and coloring at the same time, especially if it's two people. That'd be weird. Imagine, Mike, you draw it while someone's just coloring your picture at the same time.
don't give him any ideas.
It's happened. It's
Don't.
happened.
A
Wait,
whole new series of videos right there.
wait.
See Dan's hand creeping in.
Did you just say it's happened?
Yeah. I've done like murals and things like that where it's all hands on deck. Make this green, paint that, fill that with black. Don't touch any highlights. I'll do the highlights, but I need you to fill this whole square with blue. I need you to make these pants red. If I have the luxury of having people that are actually on hand and want to help with something like that, yes, I don't do the mural anymore because I'm old and I'm sore all the time, and murals are hard physical work. But when I was just, doing whatever art I could do to survive, a lot of the time it was production line style. I know I'm the visionary of this project, and here's the rough sketch that we're working from, and I need this whole 8 foot by 8 foot panel to be green before we can even draw it on the wall. They're drawing and filling stuff out while I'm, they're filling stuff with flat brushes of paint while I'm getting the drawing worked out on the board. It can be a real thing.
Okay, well, that's understandable. I was talking more like doing it at that scale.
Yeah, I mean that's a little bit too many hands on deck. But sometimes it's quick like that. Sometimes it's like, hey, can you slap some colors on this while I finish this panel? Like I've literally had people coloring a page while I was drawing the page because it had to get done, and it's a funny thing, but yeah.
That's just kind of crazy. But I'll tell you what else is kind of crazy is I have to go check on my kid just like Andrew's checking on his. What the shit?
Oh
quiet,
my god.
too quiet. I gotta go check.
We have to
man.
add some medicine in a few minutes probably, but it's okay. We can turn the camera off for that. But he's actually taking this pretty good. It's a painkiller that he's on that's like tastes like honey. Apparently, it smells like honey. That's what we know. He doesn't seem to mind it too much.
Was it a back issue or?
No, he's 14. He's got arthritis, and he's on a drug called Silencia, which is one that actually deadens the pain receptors. So that because about a year ago we thought we were losing him. He has diabetes. We thought we were losing him, and now since for a year now he's had to get a needle in the morning and a needle at night, and his blood sugar was really really high, and we didn't know why because he was eating a healthy diet. But he's a 14-year-old cat, and this shit happens, and his brother Bear doesn't have it. You know what I mean? It's just they eat exactly the same thing. But yeah, we were noticing he had some mobility issues because of the diabetes. He was losing some muscle mass in his back end, and he was having a hard time with the stairs. And they told us about this thing called Silencia, and they said it's either going to work or it's not going to work, and that's all we can tell you. And they gave him this shot once a month, and like a day after he gets the shot, he's hopping up on couches and he's running up and down the stairs like a kitten again.
Oh, that's good.
And it's because he's got no pain. But the problem with that is you don't feel anything.
He's likely to hurt himself.
You're like wreaking havoc on your joints because you're just thinking, oh, I'm a young kitten again.
Yeah.
But so his hocks have gotten kind of swollen, and so we've got him on an anti-inflammatory for that. He's just such a champ, man. He takes all of it better than we give it. That's for sure. Yeah. Good man.
Mike, you're
All right,
chat.
I'll put kids in bed now.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so
Wait.
Andrew texting his kids, go to sleep.
I know. I wish.
Hey, firstly, Andrew, it's hilarious because we were going for a while and I kind of heard your kid and I was like, oh, I know exactly what he's doing. And then just like 3 minutes ago, I had to run off real quick because.
It's funny. My two oldest, I can text and say, "Just go to bed already," just all that. But the youngest, the younger two, no, not so much.
The Bluetooth connection on a Fisher-Price phone is really bad.
So we're back from that. So we're all back from that quick edit because I had to run off real quick, or maybe I just left it playing and I actually I don't know what I did there because I don't even know what they were all doing. But whatever. Everybody's back now and all the children are asleep.
For now.
Don't say that, Andrew. Just
It's just it is what it is. It happens. You got to deal with it. I mean,
yeah, you just roll the dice and you pray.
Well, I'm hoping it don't happen till morning.
No. Thankfully not. Like my youngest now, like he was we call a contact sleeper, and he would not sleep unless you were holding him, right? So it's just that was many a nap. It's just like I would hold him, and that would honestly, and I love those moments because not only it turns me off from work and stuff, so I get to sit on the couch, and he's snuggled with me, and I get to binge watch a show. you know, and I love those moments. But now he's growing up, and he's finally learned to. I say finally, but he's been sleeping on his own for a while. But actually, all my boys have had an issue like that. One extent or another. My daughter, on the other hand, oh my God, that's it. She's like, no, put me down. Right from the right from the moment she was born. Put me down.
Don't touch me.
Exactly.
I've been cooped up in there for 9 months.
I got
need
shit to
my
do.
Space.
That's like no, just leave me alone. Yeah, no. My boy's really. I just think it's funny. Everybody like nobody else has children that are prone to throw a fit here in the next couple minutes, are they?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have a dog, but she's probably asleep.
And yeah, it's too. Yeah, and it's probably cold up there where you are in the Providence, where you ain't got a comic book store around you for 6 hours, and I still can't believe. Hey, do you all think Shiro should move based on that? I'm curious.
You know what? She's got a strong, healthy relationship with her family. I think that that's probably one of the most important things in her life. And how can you deny family? You know what I mean? I'm sure if she didn't have that, she'd be in the epicenter of everything, kicking ass like she does. And
I kick ass internationally. There's no problem there.
you do.
David, why you gotta come in with all the logical answers?
Well, let's put it this way. We've tried everything we can here in Timmins to try and convince her to come here. So I know Timmins doesn't have the allure of a big city like Toronto or anything like that, but
Doesn't have the allure. What did I do every single time you drove me from the airport to Kitty's house?
complained about the potholes.
Window going all the signage. Every
That's
single
Northern
time.
Ontario hospitality. It's not potholes. It's just
Oh.
part of the allure.
These roads are literal dirt. What's going on here?
I don't know if you should ever come to Indiana, then Shiro, if you don't like potholes. I don't know. Maybe
Is that
it's
an
worse
issue
up
down
there.
there too?
Potholes.
Hmm?
Is that an issue in Indiana too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're finally fixing the railroad tracks up by around where I live, dude. That like they're on Holman Street, and if you hit them, man, like if you hit those things, look, if you hit those things and you were going, I don't know, I'd say at 35, 40, you can pop a tire on them.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
All I know is we had a really, really like timid winter this year, and I'm sure the powers that be are just ecstatic that they can spend the money that they didn't have to spend on snow removal on our roads. So
Yeah, we had a light winter here too.
yeah, it was a weird season this year.
It was. Yeah, it sure was.
That's all I know is I seen a video recently of like Canadian snow removal. Right? I don't know, like it just popped up on my feed at some point. I'm gonna assume it's because I've been talking to so many freaking Canadians personally. Because like if you look, I don't know how like if you four go look at everyone that's been on the quest, I guarantee you know.
A
I,
good
I'm
chunk
gonna
of
say,
them, yeah.
I'm gonna say at least
Likely.
10. I'm just gonna say at least 10 minimum for each of you that you actually
man.
like know. And that's might be a low estimate. I don't know. I'd have to like do all kinds of things to figure out where everybody was to take notes to be on the show. I ain't doing all that. Right. But no, back to my point, I seen a thing where they were doing Canadian snow removal. And that looks insane. Like just a truck driving by a snowplow. It's like
Yep.
and I'm like, they're going like about this so smoothly. Like it's something they've done every day for the past 10 freaking years.
Well, I know in my town it's for a good 6-7 months of the year every year. So
Long winters, long
Yeah.
winters.
the
It's
guys,
like Newfoundland's the same too. Newfoundland is like they get maybe a month and a half of sunny weather. It's we were there in June. We were there in May for our honeymoon when we got married 20 some years ago, and 17 years ago. 17 years ago. But like it was June when we were there from May into the beginning of June. There was still snow. Wherever there was a shadow cast, there was snow in that shadow. Like it was intense. And then the interesting thing was there was 10-foot poles that were attached to the guardrails on the highways. 10-foot poles going straight up inexplicably all the way down. And I thought, why do they got these poles? Oh, the snow. The snow gets so deep that it's actually higher than the side rails, which is and it goes 10 foot higher than that. And sometimes they have so much snow that there's just little sticks like fingers sticking out of the snow, and that's where they know where the road is. It's bananas. It's just bananas. And Northern Ontario, like Davis had to clear a lot of snow in his life, I know. And it is unbelievable the amount of snow that they get up in Northern Ontario. Southern Ontario, we don't get much. We get dumped on maybe once or twice on a solid winter, but most of the time we just have wetness and gray. A lot of green Christmases here.
Yeah. Clears up after a day or two.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there envisioning driving on 10 foot of snow, and that's your road. 10 foot of snow is your road.
Well, hopefully they've cleared the road, but until they don't know where the road is to clear it unless they got those little 10-foot poles sticking out. Like it gets crazy. It's just bananas, man. You got to look at some photos of bad winters in Newfoundland. You'll be blown away.
the craziest thing that I saw a couple of years ago was there was a Facebook page that was devoted to the past that we have here in my municipality, and they were showing how they used to clear snow before, where the machine was blowing snow, but the truck actually had to follow it going backwards so that they could fill it rather than drive along with it. The plow was going like this, and the truck was going backwards to keep up with it. That's like, oh my God, I couldn't imagine the insanity behind that. Like, but that's the Great White North for you.
Yeah, where Auric lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, no wonder every image I've seen of him, he's covered in snow. Like, that's, you all need to move. That's my opinion now. All right. My overall
And
opinion.
don't knock it till you try it, buddy.
The landscape makes for good storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
I live in Indiana. We've had harsh winters that I've lived through. I don't want it to just be that permanently. That does not seem appeasing.
It's easier to draw it when you're sitting comfortably in Southern Ontario where it's warm.
Yeah. They just keep getting texts from the radio. Andrew, more snow, more snow.
Just a landscape. It's like, you want a landscape of snow, that's fine. You just take your white sheet of paper, draw like one horizontal line. So there you go. There's your eye level. There's your snow. Everything below it is the sky. Everything above it is the sky. Everything below it is the snow.
It's picturesque and easy.
Yep.
I'm only drawing comics going forward that take place in deep winter. I don't. I'm not messing around, man.
What was that one? One episode, one issue of Alpha Flight where was it Byrne had every page was a white page and there was just dialogue over the white pages and stuff like that. What a genius! What an evil genius move, man.
That's one way to get that 4 books a month credit, right?
Meanwhile, the colorist.
Yeah. Easy payday.
That would definitely have to be the easiest thing to color ever. Like, sincerely. You guys ever have the opposite problem as far as what we were discussing earlier? Where somebody gives you something as far as a script in relation to that, or notes on coloring, Shiro, to where you don't think it's enough?
For coloring, I've never received notes on my coloring other than just like, Like,
No.
or
I'm
put
saying where
contrast
you
or put down
first.
the contrast. I've
Yeah.
never.
Pull back the saturation, damn it.
Yes.
But no,
was
I
nice.
meant
Recently, Andrew told me, "Can you make it shinier?"
Oh yeah, that's right. Actually, just today, Shiro sends
Oh,
over
yeah, the
a
portal,
page, and I'm like, oh yeah, one note. It's like, can you make the portal, glow a bit brighter? And they're like, yes. I'm like, mwah, perfect.
Yeah, when Danny first started coloring my stuff, I kind of had to rein him in a little bit. He'd be like, it's getting a little bit saturated. The sky is a little bit warm. That's a little bit too pink. I want it to be pink, but that's really pink. But now, depending on the subject matter, like we just did that 40th anniversary Turtles in Time homage piece. And I was like, I want you to color this. And the retailer was like, you sure you want to give them total control? I'm like, yep. Because this is a video game homage. Danny's going to be able to just unleash the most terrifying saturation, the most terrifying bright, discordant colors, and just make it work because
And it's gorgeous.
It's got to look like that video game, and he crushed it. And as I knew he would. There was no room for let's make this subtle and refined. There was no room for it. It was just like let's make it loud. Let's make it scream Turtles and make it scream. I want people to hear that music in their head when they see that cover. And he nailed it. He loves that game. It's his favorite game. Like he loves that game. So like it was just it was nice to be able to to not have to have any say over it all. Just like go do your thing, go forth and make your magic. It's a beautiful thing.
I mean, I think that's definitely true. But no, I meant as far. But have you guys ever, Andrew and Mike, had it to where an artist or a writer gave you direction, and you just thought there should be more there? I mean, no names. I'm just curious if there have been instances of that.
Like for color notes or just for
No, for
art
drawing.
I'll take the reign on this one because I think actually there was a moment very early on. I think this was on the very first Auric book that we did, the mini issue 1. I think one of the last couple pages is when Auric is taking on the abominable snowman, and there's a couple beats where he knocks him out by triggering an avalanche. And I remember there was one time that you and I were talking, Davis, and I remember offering a suggestion. It was like, well, do you actually want to see the impact of of Auric's weapon on the mountain, and and kind of you want to see like a sequence of events of the snowman being covered in it? And he goes, nope. It's like, yeah, I think you're just kind of breaking it down like how you want it. And it's like, well, this is you're going to see those events, and then the next panel, and then we'll have. It's almost like it's more of a subtle, not a hint, but oh man, I'm blanking on the word, but it just basically you're going to see the end result, and you're going to and the story you're going to see how it makes sense. I'm rambling here because I'm trying to figure out the right word here, but I remember we were talking about asking about expanding that scene, and you're like, no, I think we'll just keep it like to that, and then you were basically explaining your thought behind it, and you're like, well, it's going to be like boom, 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 and just kind of beats, and I'm like, yeah, that works too, and then you have the final result. I mean, to be fair, the first issue is only 10 pages, right? So I think the whole idea was trying to wrap up a tight little story in 10 pages, right? But that's the first thing that came to mind.
I'm curious, Davis, when you started this and you did that 10-page comic, did you think that it would lead to the point where you're about to Kickstart? When does the Kickstarter start?
June 11th.
June 11th. Yeah.
Okay.
Number 6.
Either that just really happened real recently. It might be today when y'all are watching this quest, or it might be coming in like a day or two. I don't know. It depends on how fast or slow I was, respectively. Tune in and find out, ladies and gentlemen. But But to see it go from that to that, did you ever have any ambition even to make it a continuing thing? And at what moment did you decide, well, maybe there's more here? And what
Well,
made you decide that, for that matter?
so it all it's pretty hard to not to explain how things kind of worked out. I was on a board for a local. I think Mike had mentioned we were known as the Northern Ontario Expo, and it was a local con show that we had here in Timmins. And I on the board, part of my duties were to try and hunt down talented artists and have them join us as a part of our show. And was it two was it 2014, Mike? Does that sound like the right year?
Yeah, was it 2013 or 2014? I can't remember.
2013, I think.
2013 the
13
first
or
time. I think the first time was 2013. Might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm pretty
So
sure I got pictures of me with Mike, and I'm pretty sure they're dated 2013.
13? Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds
When my
about
hair
right
was
then.
even worse than this.
So Mike was awesome and agreed to make the trip north, and he was one of he was our feature artist, and Mike had was it that show or Mike had drawn this lion-headed figure, uh, uh, and I think we had like a contest to see if who could name the characters.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
one of our local girls that runs the comic shop in town. She ended up winning with the name Auric, and so we had a great show. It was a fun time, and Auric was kind of introduced. And the next year, we had reached out to Mike. Mike had, I believe, you had committed to another show.
Yeah, I think
the
I
next
came
year.
2 years in a row, and then after that I wasn't able to make it back. But
Yeah,
I think it might have been 2013 and 2014. I'm trying
yeah,
to
that
remember.
sounds about right now.
Yeah.
But for that next show, one of the other artists that I'd reached out to was Andrew. And Andrew and I were getting to talking, and Andrew was very, very excited and ambitious. He wanted to bring something to the show that, to kind of for display and to help promote it. And he said, how about a comic? Like, what if I drew a comic? And I was like, holy geez, that's great. Like, and I had asked him, would you mind if I helped you with that, like on the writing side of things? And he's like, yeah, sure. So we were spitballing and stuff like that. And I think Andrew had said to me, well, Mike did that character last year. Do you think he would mind if we used that and did something with that? And I said, well, we can we can ask him. So I'd written Mike, and Mike instantly was like, dude, like, absolutely, go for it. Take the ball and run with it. And so that's what started everything. Andrew and I sat there and we crafted this story and put it together. And he drew it. He the original one. He drew it. He colored it. He lettered it. He pounded the whole thing out in time. And we had a show. And what was it about? Was it 200 copies or something like that we made
It's
of
like
it?
we did 200 copies of the first one, and I think only 30 of the sketch cover.
Yeah. And at the end of the 2 day show, I'd say I'd say almost all of them were
All
gone.
but sold out. Yeah, I think we had just a small handful left, and
It was a hit.
But yeah, everything
It was a
just
hit.
went. Everything went. The local media got behind us. CBC Radio had us on up north, and we promoted it on there. Like it was perfect timing, and it was just amazing. And after that, after the show, Andrew got home and settled in, and I'm pretty sure you said to me that you want you want to keep going with this?
Yeah, I think because that was the plan. The plan was originally was to kind of like do a an annual thing. Like we would go back, every year, and we would do it. And that's the book. That's the book right there. The very first printing of Auric.
Whoa.
Well, I've disappeared.
Sold out.
That's the disappearing variant.
Yeah.
That is the ultra rare, exclusive, only to Andrew copy.
That's right. It's so exclusive. I don't even have it anymore. Look at that.
He's not even there anymore.
Yeah. It was. I just realized I have two. Excited.
Visible.
Yeah. So that was the plan. Was to do it. Was to do it annually. But then we sat down and we were like, I think we should keep going. We should make a regular series out of this. And the reception was just so overwhelming, and the feedback, and people loved it, especially up in Timmins too. People loved. I remember, that CTV News report that they did, and they were actually asking like random people on the street about the fact that Auric was Timmins was going to get its very own superhero comic, and so many people were on board for that, and so it's just such a reaffirming. It just charges my batteries. You know what I mean? To get that kind of feedback. So we're like, yeah, let's do it. And I think what we did the first issue, I think, I don't think it dates here, because this one came out in April of 2015, and I think in September was the first issue, or was it later?
No, I think you're right. It was probably late August, September.
And then we averaged out roughly one or two, like for the regular series, it was like one book a year, plus, and then we would also continue the tradition of the annual special. I think
for the show.
For the show.
Yeah.
And and so that would average out, a couple books a year. And then there was a huge gap in between issue 5 and 6, but that's another.
When Andrew got too big for his britches.
You said it, not me.
I think we could put a little bit of blame on COVID there too.
Oh man, if anything, there was a time to actually get it done.
Yeah.
But
I don't think any of us knew what to do during
really
that.
Busy and really popular, and I'm genuinely so happy for him. A bit jealous, but mostly happy.
But essentially, no, that was absolutely correct. It's just I got way too busy to do it, and to finish issue 6, and
let's be honest, this is Auric has never been. It's never been about making a lot of money. like everybody you see on this panel, this is their career. This is what they do for a living. I'm like the stepchild here that I've got a job with my municipality. I've got a career with my municipality, and I'm just lucky enough to be considered by these people to work with them. You know what I mean? It's you got to go where it pays, and sometimes you have time for things like this, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do to pay the bills, right? So, and I get that. I've never at any point ever wanted to put any pressure on anybody, because I know that this is their livelihood. You got to understand that.
Yeah, and there would be times where you would check in and just say, oh, how things are going. We would kind of set these not, I wouldn't say false milestones, but we would kind of try to set these I don't know what else to call. I don't know what else to call them, but it would
see if you would have time then.
Yeah.
Then we would just push it.
Yeah, we would try to set a tentative date, you know, to try to get it done, and it didn't pan out, you know, most of the time. But I don't know what it was. Just what it was this time around, that it just finally clicked. And we're like, oh, no, that's what it was. That I left a certain company and now I have more time. That's the thing, is now I have time, and that's what, you know, the catalyst here. But that's, you know, that's another discussion. But yeah, and then we finally, like, you hear it. I actually have some time now to actually finally finish this thing. And let's do it for, you know, the plan is to have it ready for Fan Expo in August. And so we're like, let's aim it for then. Let's do a Kickstarter in June, and then, as you know, and then contrary to, because we've ran Kickstarters in the past. I think we've done, this is going to be our like 6th or 7th at this point. Yeah. And so at this point, I'm kind of like taking notes from other campaigns to see how they would do it. And the previous campaigns we've ran, we would have a fixed, you know, budget, and we would you know, base it off of like how many copies we want to print, and we, you know, so. But this time around, we're going to set it pretty low. I think our goal is only $1,000, and we're basically going to market it, or we're going to try to run it and market it more as like a pre-order model. So it's just like people are going to, you know, pick up what the books that they want, and whatever is getting pledged is what's getting made, you know, that kind of stuff. Plus, you know, we'll have some additional, you know, copies printed for conventions and whatnot and stuff. But instead of having, because you can't see it off to the side. There's my closet, and I've got some books full of past issues that we ran in the thousands. Like we printed. The first 3 issues, I think, of Auric were like 1,000 copy print run, and I'm still sitting on, you know, loads of them. And
yeah, even though number 1 has gone through a couple of printings, I'm sure we're still sitting on a healthy amount of 2s, and I know I've got at least a box of 3s.
They must have overprinted it, because I feel like I have more boxes of 3s than I do of anything else.
It's smart though, you know what? It's better to have more than not enough. Like I every Kickstarter, we've crowdfunded every issue of Dodge, yeah. And I'll be honest with you, when I'm getting to the end of my fulfillment list, I'm down to my last few copies. So it's been a weird thing for me to watch you guys create Auric and take Auric, because everywhere I see Andrew has a table loaded with Auric books. But every time people come to see me, they say, hey, where can I get my copy of Dodge? And I'll be like, well, the thing about that is we were only able to print what we could print. And you know, Matt's in the States, I'm here in Canada. He sends me the books that I need to handle my Canadian fulfillment and all the art reward fulfillment and all the stuff that I have to mail. That very typically, I don't get quite enough books. So sometimes I have to get them to send me a few more. And we get that job done. And then at the end of it all, you know, I might have a couple of blank sketch covers left over that haven't been used, but I haven't got the core issues of Dodge. I've never been able to, in 6 years, I've never been able to have them on my table. Never. Once in a while, there'll be 1 or 2 issues. Oh, we had a couple extras of these. A lot of books got damaged in the printing. A lot of stuff that is unforeseen happens. But I've never been able to say, yeah, I'm the artist of Dodge, and you can't buy it from me. You got to wait for the next Kickstarter. And they do, and then they get their book that way. But I've always just wished I had a plethora of them on my table, because it's stuff that I drew the interiors of too. I have mostly just stuff I've done variant covers for on my table at shows. But this is my comic book. These are characters that I created, and I never have them available. And it breaks my heart, but that's just the nature of small-time publishing, man. Yeah. It's tough. I wish we could have raised the money I could have had 1,000 copies of everything up here. I'm also in very limited space up here. Like that's the other part of the problem. You know, my studio is my living room, which is also my wife's studio and her office, and we also eat here. And you know, it's also our storage room, and it's also our mail room, It's all one room. So it's very tricky sometimes to make this all work, right? And I just wish all these years I could have had copies of Dodge on my table. I just never have, and it honestly cuts me. It cuts me deep. So now that the project's all finished, hopefully. Well, actually, I'm actually out of books. I'm actually have to put a stop on my shipping right now of Dodge books for the moment because I've run out.
Wow.
Matt was short about 12 books, which means 12 people are going to have to wait a little bit longer because Matt's got to send me now some books from the West Coast. You know what I mean? And it's it's a lot sometimes.
That's just rough as far as all the shipping in between that, man. And I think it's funny that people don't realize that about comics anymore nowadays too, because it used to be if y'all were working on a comic, y'all were probably in at least the same town, or I mean at least the same state, if not the same town, right? If you were collectively working on a comic, right? Now I'm talking 30 years ago when I say that, mind you. But now, you can work with people from 3 different countries, to create a book. And then once that book is created, to get that book to everyone, logistically, that would become way more complex at that point, man. So it's funny to think about how much the internet has refined and simplified things, but at the same time making it to where when artists collaborate within it, if they make something that's actually physical to make sure that they all have it, becomes a touch more difficult because of the range that they are now at from one another.
Yeah.
That makes my head hurt.
I hear that.
Yeah, seriously.
I get it. I live in the middle of nowhere. It's hard to ship me outside, and it's hard to get stuff inside.
And then you got Shiro, who's just like, I'm going to go to that spot that leads to the center of the earth where King Kong hangs out, right? I'm going to hang out right here, right? That's just where she hangs out. So if you ever want to go hang out with her or King Kong, apparently that's where you need to go. You're on that real edge of the center. Man, I just look. It's the no comic book store for 6 hours that just that's.
Yeah, she's pretty remote for sure.
We have a bookstore, but you have to really like European comics. Actually, went last week just for fun. The American comics about this thick, and it was like this thick: 1 Batman, 2 Avengers. this big, the section. The rest is European comics, mangas. There's a spinning rack with Garfield's in it, so there's that.
Y'all, why is it? I want to get y'all's perspective from this because me and Shiro talked about it on her quest, which y'all can go back and check out. Why do you think it is the area she's in, as far as Montreal, is odd? Because I feel like can you guys get access to American comics easier than she can, as far as because the way Shiro told it with it. I mean, y'all can go check it out, like I said, but it bloody well just frankly hurt my head as far as just some of the laws within there in that area, and you better keep it French. Like I'd get arrested where you're from, ostensibly is what I'm saying, because I'd be like, I don't know none of this. Leave me alone.
Well, you're not necessarily going to be arrested just for walking and speaking English, but you are going to be looked at like this a lot.
Well then eventually I get really annoyed about that, and the hip hop side of me might come out a little bit. And again, I'd end up arrested.
Yeah, then you'll get arrested. Yeah, in French.
That would be hilarious.
Recently had the experience. You don't want to run afoul of Quebec police.
Oh no.
Oh, we are a cranky bunch. Imagine when we have a badge.
Yeah.
It's bad enough they can't even tell you what you're stopping you for in English.
Oh, but they'll try and get mad when you struggle.
Je vous too fast.
No, like places like Montreal are totally fine, but like Shiro's nowhere near Montreal. And I'm living in a suburb of Toronto, like not far from Andrews, so we're literally swimming in comic shops around here.
Yeah.
I'm in a small northern town of maybe 43,000 people. We've got a comic store. We're lucky. We're lucky we have one, and we've had them sporadically through the years. You know what I mean? So we've been lucky to have that. But like,
I spent my summers in a small town growing up, and like we didn't have a comic store, but we had a Max Milk, and we had a we had a Becker's, and like we had a grocery store, and there were spinner racks. And I raided that thing every day. I thought comics came in every day. I was there like a freak trying to get everything, because I was, it was the summer. I was by myself. I was hanging out with my grandparents, and I was just hungry for comics all the time. But there was no comic shops. My friends back home, and they're always at the comic shop, and they're spoiled. But yeah,
the first comics that I ever bought were off a spinner rack in a Shoppers Drug Mart in a strip mall. So that's. Thank God for newsstands. I think it's a shame that you don't see them.
Oh, it breaks my heart, man. It breaks my heart.
Oh well, you should talk to Vlad, one of the other co-hosts, then, who's over in really Serbia. Yeah, there you go. And they apparently still have newsstands. And the second
nice.
and they do over in France too, from having Eleni Cassiandra on, because we had a great conversation. I had to do a show at 9 a.m. because I'm dealing with somebody in Italy and somebody in Serbia, and I'm like, this is not when I like to do shows. But it was a great.
At least our premier's is gonna get the booze in the corner stores now. Forget the comic books. We're gonna get priorities here. Let's get the beers in the corner stores.
Spinner rack booze.
Yeah.
Spinner racks full of beer. Come to Ontario.
Yay, Canada.
But no, it's sad because if you really think about it, the same thing has happened in America. Gas stations used to have spinner racks of comics, but now you can go buy some beer or whatever, and I mean, half the time you can get it cold, so it's very much changed in that aspect, which I would say is a negative, personally, because who wants to stop and get gas and a cold beer? Well, I mean, let me rephrase that. Who wants to be driving on the road knowing that you can stop and get gas and cold beer and there's a bunch of people doing it and then just drinking and it's just a terrible conversation or combination. Now, mind you, to say that, I don't want you to go to a gas station, get your gas, and get a comic book and try and read the book while you're driving either. I don't think that's a good idea.
It's tempting sometimes, though. You're just looking at your comic on the side soon, and you're petting it.
You got to know what Jughead's up to.
Yeah, because that's pretty much all I can get semi-regularly.
Well, and then you're doing that, and suddenly thump, and you ran over some kid
That's
named
just a little
Jughead.
bit
You
of
were trying to read Jeez.
All Archies.
Oh my
I
God.
may have one or two English ones in here that I brought back from Nova Scotia.
That is an insane amount of Archie. It really is.
I mean,
that is a drop in my collection.
They that was, I mean, that's been a staple. Like, you go to any cash register and they have the bunch of the Archie Reader's Digest and stuff, right?
Those are like the only comics you can still get at the grocery stores. Archie.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
I remember. I don't know if they're still doing it, but there was a time where Archie started also expanding their digest. Like I managed picking up. There was a Spider-Man digest at one point, and like they were doing a bunch of different heroes and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like they gotta keep doing that. Like I'd like to see more of that. I want to see more, more variety.
Oh, honestly, they should have put comics in the movie theaters as soon as they started making these Marvel movies, man.
Oh,
they should have tried to build a bridge immediately, because the reality is these films make billions of dollars, and there's no trickle down effect that affects any of the creators involved in any reality. Like, if And then they would start to make weird mistakes where they would start to bend the comic books to look like the movies, but they still weren't actually connecting the bridge from one to the other. If you were a kid going to see the Thor movie for the first time and you walk out of there and you're like, and then you go to, like, you're leaving and you pass a spinner rack full of Thor comics. Even if it didn't look like what you just watched on the screen, you are hungry now. You've had that thing tickled in your brain and you want a little bit more of that.
Oh,
And I really do feel like it would have been a small, tiny gesture for Marvel or DC or these big companies to actually put right next to the cash, right where you buy your popcorn and your drink, an option to have a couple of comic books that your kid can leave the theater with. And that's how you build that bridge. That's how you make young readers. It's really been shameful, I think. And now that we're 20 years into these movies, or 10 years, however long it's been since the first X-Men movies came in, whatever the first, from that era
It
came
was,
out.
hey, Mike. It was Blade, man. Come
Yeah, but it was
on.
Blade, but then there was a massive long gap.
I
I'm
mean,
just
I
saying,
know after that, but Blade started it.
100%. But I'm just saying, when they got into this regular universe building, they should have been building the audience in both mediums. They should have drawn that bridge, and they didn't. And it's really a shame. It's really bothered.
It's such a good idea because Jeff Burton, okay, he does Aurora Man, and I work with him, of course, because I work with everybody. And when the latest Ghostbusters movie came out in theaters, he works part-time at the theater. His latest Aurora Man comic was Ghostbuster themed. He put some of his comics next to his place where he works. Yep. So like that, when people come out of the movie, they see this comic, then they're interested, and then check it out, and then they buy it.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. It's simple.
Easy. Simple.
And after that, Marvel and DC, who are supposed to have marketing teams, we can't sell our comics.
I really feel like they left a lot of money on the table, man. I feel like they left a shit ton of money on the table.
I remember the first Venom movie when it came out. They did make a comic that was, but they were so hard to get.
Yeah.
The next thing you knew, people were selling it for $25-$30 online because it was like only so many theaters actually got their hands on these things. Like, how is that helping anything?
I'll tell you, in my opinion, if you wanted to take this and really help the comic book industry, I think the best thing that you could do anytime that, I mean, you could do this with any comic book film, you know what I'm saying? And even film is that people would not realize were comic book films because there's plenty of them. The Crow was popular. Nobody knew that The Crow was based on a comic when they were trying to, like, I mean, I've said this on a past interview. I'm like, I think it might have been with you. One of the times you were on the show, people went and seen The Crow and they're like, I'm going to turn goth, not realizing they were like, I went and seen The Crow. I'm going to go read some comics is what you should have said, because that's where the story derived from. You know what I mean? You didn't need to go and dress like Eric Draven. You needed to go read the story and the other stories that came from there. And it would give you a whole other depth of character.
Like the example of The Crow that you just used, the Crow film, the first one at least was like, it was a pretty fair adaptation of the original comic. If anyone who's read the original comic, I mean, sure, there were things that had to change. There were things that weren't perfect, but it was, as far as storytelling goes, and as far as condensing, a body of work into a 2-hour film, I mean, The Crow gets a 10 out of 10 for me, for sure, just for that. And you're right. I wish that that had caused a drove of people to go out and buy those comics, and it's.
But I do think in that instance, man, it was. Like, if they would have tried to push the Crow comic with the Crow movie, I don't think the movie would have been as successful based on the era that it was released in.
Sure.
Now, if you compare that to now and where comic book films are and the fact that people are fully aware that they're going to see, all kinds of comic book films, and there are comic book films that are coming out that I think people are seeing and aren't aware of comic book films. If you took, like, for opening night, here's this special issue with a variant cover, right? Like, and then you can only get this issue opening night with the variant cover. But then, while the film is running the whole time, you have a different cover that's just standard, you know what I mean? And you should have that while that film is playing in the theater. Now, it does become a logistic problem though, because if you think about it, like where do they keep that book in a movie theater to where the person grabbing and handing it to you isn't going to have all kinds of residue and crap on their fingers? Did they put it out to where you can grab it on a spinner rack? Do they put, you know what I mean? Because there are
All you need
people that are
is a
going to be
table and one
crazy about it.
employee. That's all
Huh?
you need is a table and one employee that's dedicated to that job for the night. You know, they do that while people come in the door. Once the movie's done, they pack up their stuff. They get back to sweeping the floors. It's real like it's that easy.
But
Yeah,
if
I
you
mean, I
think
don't.
about,
I mean, I'm just thinking back to when I was a kid and like having to smuggle comics out of the house and fold them up and then smuggle them into school and you know what I mean and like trade with my friends at recess these folded up, beat up ass comic books because we didn't care. We wanted the content. It wasn't about like, well, this was handled by a buttery fingered movie employee.
okay, and agree. I fully agree with you, Mike, in the fact that the most important part of the comic is the story contained within it. The fact that it's turned into where there are people that buy comics and never read them kind of annoys me. Not that I don't have comics sitting over there that I've purchased that I haven't read, but I intend to, all right? I just haven't had the time. It's not intentional. All right. Like Mike said, he had that book for like 2-3 months before we finally got to it. So I can relate, Mike. I love Deadpool and I still haven't read issue 1 of the new series and I got issue 2 and it's driving me crazy. And yeah, Andrew, I read like issue 2 to issue 4 quick stops all at once because I hadn't read issue 2 and I had up to issue 4. And so things like that happen. So I can understand that.
But it's funny. They already and like they already have the foundation in place to even implement such a thing at the movie theater because at least the ones we have here, they have like as you're lining up to get your popcorn and drink, they already have like these shelves like basically kind of right on the side like right beside you, and they've got stacked full of merch and like relevant merch too. So if you're gonna go see Deadpool Wolverine, you're gonna see the Deadpool Wolverine Funko Pops and the plushies and all that stuff. Why can't you have a dedicated shelf to like just like you can have a few of the trade paperbacks that are like these are the trades that connect most or they're the inspiration for the movie and stuff like that. If you like that, you'll love this kind of thing. It's already there in place. You just need to put some trades on there.
And on the way out. On the way out, let them grab it on the way out while they're still feeling the energy of that movie.
Yeah,
that's
it.
Okay, no, I can. Yeah, that's genius. I don't think I've ever been to a theater that had Funko Pops and merch like that. Like the most you're gonna get is like the themed popcorn bucket that they have for.
But a lot of theaters have like a shitty side arcade. Does anyone play the video games in the little arcades in the movie theaters? Because they're always trash. So they turn that into a little comic shop.
Hey, look, man! I've been to a couple that had crane games, and I'm really good at crane games, and so I just lend my son a bunch of crap. You know what I mean?
There's only so many bouncy balls I want to take home.
Yes, but if you would like grab a couple of those prizes and then trade them in at the counter for a book.
Or you charge already so much for a movie that what does it cost? Well, how much would Marvel really feel it if they printed special little, ash can size, pamphlets, 6-page pamphlets that might have some connecting material to the film you're about to watch, and you get that with your ticket.
Oh man,
like it would come on, we're not talking about huge dollars here. It doesn't have to be printed on nice paper. It doesn't have to be fancy.
If they can give away
being manhandled by buttery fingers and just had popcorn.
If they can give away the cinema magazines upcoming, they can certainly do that.
Damn straight.
God. Yeah, that's right.
And if they feel they don't have enough money, they can just ask Papa Disney.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Well, no,
it's a perfect segue right back to the Archie Digest version and stuff like that. You can have your digest, Wolverines and Spider-Mans and all that stuff. Just perfect, perfect size for grab and go. You like what you saw?
Meant to be kept in condition. They're meant to be handled and opened, bashed around. Like read in the car. You know what I mean?
That kind of bit, and like you don't care. You just want to read.
Like a crossword book. It's just got to be, something that's tactile in your hands and, Put games in it. You know, like it's easy. You seen that shitty stuff they have at dollar stores, Marvel branded stuff. Put all that crap in the movie theater, man. Let them walk out and color the Avengers all the next day after they saw that movie on Friday.
Yeah, to especially Dollarama's credits. I mean, like you can grab a lot of like great like hardcover graphic novels now for like $4.
It's terrifying, actually, but yeah, I know what you mean, though. Yeah,
I mean, just for the sheer accessibility,
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've just never thought, because we've had this conversation in the past in the show, as far as what could you do to make it to where
You show up in
comic books
Dollarama.
are, comic books become more accessible more than anything else, because I think that is a large part of the problem with people not reading comic books, is because once you went to the specialty stores and you got rid of pretty much everything, as far, especially in the U.S., as far as newsstands, spinner racks, all that, it very much changed the market. It made it to where everybody wasn't exposed to these like they previously were. You know what I mean? And to put it in that situation is very intriguing. Like I said, it's something we discussed a lot, and I can't tell you how many different theories have been brought up as far as to correct it. I think doing it that way, especially if you had a place that already had merchandise, I think that's what would probably help the most. Like the fact that you had a Funko Pop next to that graphic novel, I think will make it more relatable to the average person. And I mean, I say that purely out of speculation, but I guarantee way more people own Funko Pops than have comic books. I would put a chunk of money on that. Like as far as just number of people.
like more people have Funko Pops than comics.
No, like more people. There are more people that have like bought a random Funko Pop than have bought a random comic. Let me say it like that.
Hard to say. Yeah.
I will.
Person is, I guess.
I can relate because I've actually had access to a Funko Pop or two easier than a comic.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but single comic book is getting almost to that price.
Yeah.
Once you do the conversion from American and then you add the taxes and
The average is like what, $5.99 a book now?
$5.99, and that's US, right?
Yeah.
So by the time you're done paying, it's $7 and change for that's
So if you want Aliens black, white, and red, it's going to be like what, like 10 or 12 Canadian?
Probably around $10.
Depends on what the retail price is. Yeah, but
$7.99.
I haven't been able to afford comics in years.
Yeah, you're paying over $10, Jay, for that.
Yeah.
Remember when $10 get you 2 comics?
Man,
I remember when
I
remember when you could go into a comic store with $10 and walk out with 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah. I used to shop.
Now you can't. Too many cameras.
That was the line of the night. That one right there.
I can't behave. Camera pointing at me. I'm like, honk, honk.
I'm glad I just looked over at my screen because I needed to see that. But yeah, I agree. That was the line of the night, and it was a way to show. Now, for everybody watching, look, I want you all to go click to the first link in the description. It'll be to the Kickstarter for issue 6. Right? It's been a pleasure to have all you all, man. Like I said, to bring Shiro, Andrew, Mike, as well as Davis. You're always all welcome back on the show. I mean, I don't even know, Mike. You're getting close to the record, Mike. I don't know though. Then I started the co-hosting thing, and I'll never count. If someone ever wants to go count who's been on the most episodes, as far as with the co-host and everything and the pan-cons, you're more than welcome
on
to.
you, Jay.
Huh? No. Look, Davis, I'm not doing it. I refuse. All right, because before I go and figure out who's been on the show the most times, there are like 80 other things I need to do that would be cool for the show. That like It's deadlines, bro. It's deadlines. And that's what it is, right? But look, if you've enjoyed the show, you can go check out Shiro, Andrew, and Mike's first quest, which, wow, that was a ways back, to find out how to respectively torture them. To find out how to respectively, make them have a good day. I flip that backwards, right? Now, as far as Davis, yeah, if you've enjoyed this quest, right, what you can do, yeah, is wait, which one was that? Where is that, right? Send a Northern Lion Man, right, with the Sword of Omens, and just a bunch of really good Italian food. Make sure there's some spaghetti, some pizza in there, you know what I mean? And then just whatever else you want to throw in, man. Just some
A nice
really,
roast
really
beef
good.
dinner.
Yeah. If you want to throw in a roast beef, I'm sure the Lion Man would join him for it. He'd probably be down for that meal for a fact, and that's a bon appetit, right? And a O. Henry, which look, dude, that does not sound like a candy bar. All right,
Yeah.
O. Henry, that does
I
not.
can't promise you anything exciting at the end of the night, but an O. Henry, I can do that.
Is that their actual tagline? Like, is that their actual catchphrase?
That's my catchphrase. I
Oh,
can't.
okay.
I'm married. I
'Cause
can't promise you anything at the
look,
end of the night.
okay, look. I'm gonna tell you right now.
But an O. Henry, I can do.
Oh, Henry candy bars. Y'all need to use that as your catchphrase, because I don't know what your catchphrase is, but I pretty well guarantee what Davis just said was far better and funnier. He might not be as marketable, but that's a whole nother point altogether. Right now, if you haven't enjoyed this interview, and for some reason, like Davis is just like got you like, look, man, you talk too much about snow. All right. What I want you to do, right, is, I mean, man, yeah, that's just I can't. I was gonna say in good conscience I can't do this, but then I realized I don't have much of conscience. So let's
That's
just
why we get
see.
along.
Yeah, right. What you're gonna do is you're gonna get him some earworms, right? You just dig all up in his head, you know, right, and make him sense nothing but the smell of Arby's. And for some reason, the sensation of the main character from Clueless just being in his ear at all times. I can't remember that character's name. I've watched it. It's an okay flick. I'm not a big fan, but I don't think Davis would like that.
Thanks.
He's looking at me like, why did I come on this
That's-
show?
That's cinematic torture. That's what that is for me.
Right.
All you-
Besides,
Oh, is it all you said is earworm, and I just couldn't help but picture, the moment from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, where he puts the.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you
Yeah.
can specifically get that one, that's all the better, man. But I figured, for any earworm you can get that'll work. I wasn't gonna.
It's perfect because you can, it makes you more vulnerable or susceptible to suggestion. So it's like, here, go support our Kickstarter.
I could work with those kind of earworms.
Right?
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. That was Khan's mission all along. We got to support the Auric Kickstarter.
So, like I said, check out. Look, go click that link in the descriptions, right? And there might be a bunch of other links there if I manage to get everything put in, and I don't know. But the first one will be to issue 6 of Auric, right? Besides that, I just want y'all to do 3 things, right? 1, give it that thumbs up, or whatever the equivalent is with what platform you're using, right? I don't know. We are on a lot of places besides that, right? Get your Comic on. Have a good night, y'all.
Listen up, Internet.
You guys should be watching the questionnaire
I just started.
Should I just go?
The Questionnaire podcast.
Say anything, Jay.
because these motherfuckers
Talk about some really cool
The questionnaire.
Don't be late.